Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Raisha Sehgal. On the show today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he will hold peace talks with Russia if Moscow pulls out of all the territory. Zelensky further said that Putin would not end the war and had to be stopped in any way we can. However, the two-day summit ended with key regional powers refraining from signing up to a joint communique in Switzerland.
Also on World DNA today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet has criticized plans announced by the military to hold daily tactical pauses in fighting along one of the main roads into Gaza to let humanitarian aid in, with some of the far-right ministers seeing aid deliveries as delaying Israel's victory. We are going to be introspecting into that further with our special guest joining in right here on World DNA. Let's get you started with the headlines.
Key nations including Brazil, India, South Africa and Saudi Arabia did not sign up to a joint communique issued at the end of Ukraine Peace Summit. Over 80 countries endorse Kiev's territorial integrity in the face of Russia's invasion.
Netanyahu criticizes plans announced by the military to hold daily tactical pauses in fighting along one of the main roads into Gaza to facilitate aid deliveries, say officials. Netanyahu's reaction underlines political tensions over the issue of aid coming into Gaza.
Intensified cross-border fire from Lebanon's Hezbollah militants into Israel could trigger serious escalation, warns the Israeli military.
At least 19 Jordanian and Iranian pilgrims die while on the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia as temperatures soar in the kingdom.
At least 6 people are killed and 30 others remain missing after heavy rains triggered a landslide in a tourist region of southern Ecuador.
G7 members unite against China's economic policies, say they will come up with more steps to diversify away from China and level the playing field for other global players.
American golfer Bryson DeChambeau wins his second US Open title with a one-shot victory over Rory McIlroy, whose 10-year major drought continues after a late collapse at Pinehurst.
Muslims around the world celebrate Eid al-Adha. This year's celebrations come amid a raging war in Gaza that has pushed West Asia to the brink of a regional conflict.
Our top focus on World DNA, Shivan. There have been growing disagreements between the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli military.
Well, in the latest, Resha, according to reports, Netanyahu has criticized plans by military to implement daily tactical pauses of 11 hours in fighting along the main roads in Gaza. And the move was aimed to facilitate aid deliveries into the Palestinian enclave.
The military has said that normal operations will continue in Rafah, the main focus of its operation in southern Gaza, where 8 soldiers were killed on Saturday.
On Sunday, 11 funerals were held throughout Israel for Israeli Defense Forces personnel who lost their lives in 3 different fighting incidents in the Gaza Strip over the weekend. Most of the killed soldiers laid to rest on Sunday were killed in a blast in Rafah on Saturday morning in what marked the deadliest incident for the IDF in the Strip since January.
Mourners on Sunday buried Israeli military officer Wassim Mahmoud, the commander, who was killed in the Gaza Strip along with 7 of his soldiers on Saturday. At the funeral, an officer said Mahmoud led his soldiers, quote, with bravery, determination, and professionalism. Mahmoud was a member of Israel's Druze minority, a sect whose faith draws its roots from Islam. The Israeli military said Mahmoud and his squad were traveling inside an armored personnel carrier in a convoy of vehicles in the southern city of Rafah on Saturday. Here's Army spokesperson Daniel Hagari.
According to the information we have, at this point a strong explosion occurred in one of the engineering vehicles in the convoy, apparently caused by an explosive device planted in the area or as a result of an anti-tank missile being fired. Inside the armoured carrier were the 8 fighters who were killed.
The armed wing of the Hamas militant group said the vehicle had been trapped in a prepared minefield. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday called the casualties, quote, another heartbreaking price in our just war for the defense of our homeland. And he pledged again to stick with his military objectives, the destruction of the Hamas militant group and the return of all Israeli hostages held in Gaza. On Saturday, the Israeli police released this footage purporting to show parts of an operation last weekend that rescued 26-year-old Noah Argamani and 3 others who were taken captive on October 7th. Reuters was not able to independently verify the date or the location the video was filmed. Despite growing international pressure for a ceasefire, an agreement to halt the fighting still appears distant, more than 8 months since the start of the war in the Palestinian enclave. But Israel's military on Sunday said it would hold daily tactical pauses in combat operations along a main road in southern Gaza to allow more aid to flow into the area. The war erupted when Hamas fighters rampaged through southern Israel on October 7th, killing 1,200 and taking more than 250 captives, according to Israeli tallies. Israel's retaliatory airstrikes and ground invasion have killed more than 37,000 Palestinians, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Israeli forces have been closing in on Rafah, where it claims brigades of Hamas fighters remain entrenched.
In the Gaza Strip, Israeli army continued with the offensive. The IDF released footage of its operations in the Gaza Strip.
Now, according to the Palestinian Health Authority, the Israeli troops shot dead a Palestinian teenager in the West Bank after troops opened fire during a raid. Meanwhile, amid the intensified cross-border fighting between Israel and Lebanon, the Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari said that Hezbollah's increasing aggression is bringing Israel to the brink of a wider escalation. All right, for more on this, we are being joined by Charles Kupchan, who is a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and was the former special assistant to the president and senior director for European affairs on the staff of the National Security Council in the Barack Obama administration. Mr. Kupchan, always a pleasure having you right here on DNA with us. I wanted to understand from you, among all the rifts we've seen emerging within Israel, is the growing rift between the Israeli leadership and the military perhaps the most concerning for Israel, given the war at the moment?
Well, we don't really know exactly what has transpired in terms of the rift between Prime Minister Netanyahu and the military. Netanyahu seems to be posturing some opposition to this idea of a humanitarian pause. But it's difficult for me to believe that the military would have introduced this major tactical innovation to sort of pause military operations along the main corridor leading from Kerem Shalom, which is where the trucks are going into Gaza, without consulting with the government. So my best guess is what's going on here is that Netanyahu is trying to maneuver. He's, number one, trying to respond to pressure from the United States, from the international community, from the international courts, to get more aid in there, but at the same time faces a lot of opposition from cabinet members on the right. So he's saying one thing in English to the international community, he's saying another thing in Hebrew to his domestic audience. That's the kind of bind that he finds himself in right now.
Right, Mr. Kapshan, you've clearly said that this ruling came out with consultation with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Another pertinent question is that how much will the pause help? Do you think that this tactical pause for a period of 11 hours can actually be trusted? Because we've seen in the past that the US-made temporary pair was also damaged.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, I don't know that the Prime Minister knew in advance. I'm just guessing that a major move like this would not be proceeded with without getting the permission from on high. This is a major change because you can only get so much aid in by sea or by airdrop. Trucks can bring in many, many more tons of assistance on a daily basis. So to open Kerem Shalom, to allow those trucks to pass into Gaza and to have safe passage into those parts of Gaza where the food, the fuel, the medicine is in great shortage, yeah, this can make a big difference. And to the degree that Israel is really under a huge amount of criticism, part of it is the high loss of civilian life, but another big piece of it is that aid has not been getting in at the level at which it needs to get in. This seems to be a response by the Israeli military to that criticism.
Mr. Kapshan, just one more question I wanted to take from you. Of course, there's no pause in the immediate future that we're going to be seeing. No ceasefire has been achieved since months and months of diplomacy has failed in achieving that. And of course, there's hardly any humanitarian aid which is trickling in compared to what is actually needed in the Gaza Strip. Now, do you feel at this point the neighboring nations, at least Jordan and Egypt, it's time they open up their borders and let some of the Palestinians into their land so that they can get some sort of regular life back into them?
I think it's very unlikely. I mean, if there's a country that has the space, that has the proximity to open its borders to the Palestinians in Gaza, it would be Egypt. But Egypt hasn't wanted to move in that direction, in part because it's afraid that Hamas would come into Egypt. It's afraid that the Palestinians, the Gazans that would cross the border and head south might never return to Gaza. One other thing that I think may be at play here is that the Israelis have been prosecuting the operation in Rafah for several weeks now. And it may be that the military is finding that it is able to make significant progress, that it is degrading the positions that Hamas has in south, in and around Rafah. That may be part of the rationale for what's going on here, that the Israelis can ease off on the military front, in part because they are getting close to accomplishing their mission. That doesn't mean that a ceasefire is around the corner, but it may mean that at least there could be a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to getting to a situation where Israel believes that Hamas has been so set back that it cannot again carry out anything like October 7th.
Definitely a light at the end of the tunnel is definitely one that everyone is hoping for at the moment in any form as of now. Thank you so much for joining in. That was Charles Kapshan joining us from Washington, D.C. Always a pleasure having you here on World DNA with us, sir.
Good to be with you. Bye-bye.
Moving on, as Muslims around the world continue to celebrate Eid al-Adha, at least 19 people have died due to heat-related issues in Saudi Arabia amid the ongoing Hajj pilgrimage.
And of course, of the deceased, 14 are from Jordan, while 5 are from Iran. Temperatures in the country have pushed beyond 40 degrees Celsius during the annual pilgrimage, making the outdoor rituals a challenge. As per weather predictions, the mercury is expected to cross the 47-degree mark today, while the Saudi Arabia authorities have fallen short of commenting on the deaths. They have deployed measures to help protect against the soaring temperatures. These include creating climate-controlled areas, regular distribution of water, advising pilgrims on ways to protect against the heat, and medical teams to provide healthcare services to those affected.
The news of the deaths came just after the pilgrims performed the last major ritual of the Hajj, the stoning of the devil in Mecca. Well, in Sunday's ritual, the 1.8 million people undertaking the pilgrimage threw 7 stones at the 3 concrete walls, symbolizing the devil in Mecca's Mina Valley. Take a look.
Meanwhile, the Muslim Holy Day was also marked among ruins in the war-torn Gaza Strip. Dozens were seen holding prayers near the ruins of a mosque in Gaza's Khan Yunis. With stalled humanitarian aid, families are forced to eat canned food in stifling tents. This comes as the United Nations continues to warn that over 1 million people in Gaza are headed to experience the highest level of starvation in the coming weeks.
جاءنا العيد عيد الأضحى في طبعا ظروف صعبة، ظروف اقتصادية صعبة، في حرب على شعبنا، في طبعا تغول الاحتلال الإسرائيلي على الشعب الفلسطيني في قطاع غزة، هذا الشعب الأعزل الذي يتم تدميره في كل صباح ومساء، ويأتي هذا العيد ونحن بعيدين عن بيوتنا، بعيدين عن أبنائنا.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that he will hold peace talks with Russia if Moscow pulls out of all Ukrainian territory.
Right, Shivan. Speaking at the Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland, Zelensky asserted that Putin would not end the war and had to be stopped by military or diplomatic means.
Now, the 2-day talks at the Swiss Alpine Resort The talks were attended by over 90 countries, with dozens of countries committing to Ukraine's territorial integrity. The meet concluded with a final document being adopted which blamed the war's widespread suffering and destruction firmly on Russia. However, several countries, including India, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, did not sign it.
The vast majority of more than 90 countries attending a Swiss summit on peace for Ukraine supported its final declaration as it concluded on Sunday. Initiated by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the 2-day summit at the Swiss Alpine resort of Burgenstock aimed to find a consensus on how to end the war in Ukraine.
I'm confident that together we will ensure the result. The first and the second peace summits should unite our joint work on the details of peace.
Many Western leaders voiced condemnation of Russia's invasion and rejected President Vladimir Putin's demands for parts of Ukraine as a condition for peace. However, some countries attended the summit did not put their name to the communiqué, including Mexico, Saudi Arabia and India. There was no clarity on whether future talks would involve Russia. Swiss President Viola Amherd.
A lasting solution must involve both parties. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the discussions over the past 2 days have shown that there are different points of view. All the more important is our understanding that the path towards peace in Ukraine must be pursued on the basis of international law and, in particular, the United Nations Charter.
Moscow, which was not invited, labelled the summit a waste of time. China was another notable absentee. The conference nevertheless underscored both the broad support Ukraine still enjoys from its allies, but also the challenges for any lasting ceasefire. A draft of the final declaration seen by Reuters refers to Russia's invasion as a war, a label Moscow rejects. It calls for Ukraine's control over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant and its Azov seaports to be restored and for Ukraine's territorial integrity to be respected. But, in line with the conference's more modest stated aims, it omitted tougher issues on what a post-war settlement for Ukraine might look like and whether Ukraine could join the NATO alliance. The Kremlin did not rule out future talks with Kyiv, but said guarantees will be needed to ensure the credibility of any negotiations. Whether there will be a follow-up to the summit and where it will be held remained unclear.
Well, China is expanding its nuclear arsenal faster than any other country, says a report by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute.
Now, from 410 nuclear warheads last year, China's military stockpile has grown to 500 as of January. However, when compared to US and Russia, China still falls short. As per the figures cited in the SIPRI report, the US inventory was 5,044 warheads. Russia, on the other hand, has 5,580 warheads.
But there's a neck-and-neck competition as far as the intercontinental ballistic missiles are concerned. At the moment, China has 238 of them in its possession. The country is predicted to surpass America's holding of 800 or even that of Russia's total of 1,244 within the next 10 years.
Talking about readiness, China is believed to have deployed a small number of warheads during peacetime. Of China's 500 warheads, 24 were deployed as of January, according to the report. US, on the other hand, has readied nearly half of its warheads, with 1,770 deployed.
Now, if you look at the global figures, there is an estimated total 12,121 warheads, of which 9,585 are ready to use.
The streets of France are witnessing massive protests. Protests triggered by President Emmanuel Macron's announcement of snap polls and his appeal to the people to save the republic from racism and anti-Semitism.
Well, as many as 10,000 people have joined the anti-riot demonstration in the French city of Lyon on Sunday.
French police have lobbed tear gas shells at a demonstration in Lyon. Videos of the protests going viral show tear gas smoke billowing on streets. The protest in Lyon comes a day after tens of thousands marched in Paris and cities across France to raise their voice against the far right. There has been growing concerns over upcoming legislative elections, which may produce the country's first far right government since World War II.
A first series of opinion polls have predicted that the National Rally Party can win polls and be in a position to form the next government. The first round of voting is set for June 30th and a second round is scheduled for July 7th, less than 3 weeks before the Paris Games.
Remember, the party came out on top in the European elections just last week. It garnered over 30% of the vote cast in France, almost twice the showing for Macron's allies.
An axe-wielding man with a supposed Molotov cocktail bomb was shot by German police in Hamburg on Sunday.
Well, the incident took place on the sidelines of a soccer parade, and this as Poland and the Netherlands prepare to play against each other in the city. Take a look at this one.
This was the moment before German police fired shots at a person said to have threatened officers with a pickaxe and an incendiary device in Hamburg on Sunday. The incident took place on the sidelines of a Euro 2024 soccer fan parade in the St. Pauli district, ahead of a match between Poland and the Netherlands. Hamburg police spokesperson Sandra Löfgren.
According to what we know, our latest information, a man left a bar. He apparently had a Molotov cocktail in his hand and also a pickaxe. He apparently tried to set fire to this Molotov cocktail and then approached several people, including police officers. And the police officers then had to make use of their firearms.
Fan marches are scheduled ahead of the games, and a parade for Dutch supporters was held around the time of the incident.
We assume that this is an isolated case, that is, disconnected from football. It obviously has no connection to football. We are dealing with an individual offender, and in this respect, I don't see any threat at all, or any impact on the game today.
The attacker was injured in the leg and was receiving medical care, but his condition is not life-threatening, a police spokesperson said.
And it's time now for a quick short break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, We'll get you a story of how a top Czech court clears the way for Nikhil Gupta's extradition to the US to face alleged charges of plotting the assassination of Khalistani terrorist Gurpantwan Singh Pannu.
Also on the other side, after SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk's remarks on eliminating electronic voting machines, India's opposition leaders questioned their credibility and transparency, thereby triggering yet another row over EVMs. We are going to be bringing you all this and a lot more. Come right back after the break.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Thank you so much for being back with us. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. Let's get you started with the headlines we're tracking for you.
Key nations including Brazil, India, South Africa and Saudi Arabia did not sign up to a joint communique issued at the end of Ukraine peace conference. Over 80 countries endorsed Kyiv's territorial integrity in the face of Russia's invasion.
Netanyahu criticises plans announced by the Israeli military to hold daily tactical pauses in fighting along one of the main roads into Gaza to facilitate aid delivery, say officials. Netanyahu's reaction underlines political tensions over the issue of aid coming into Gaza.
Intensified cross-border fire from Lebanon's Hezbollah militants into Israel could trigger serious escalation, warns the Israeli military.
At least 19 Jordanian and Iranian pilgrims die while on the Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia as temperatures soar in the kingdom.
At least 6 people are killed and 30 others remain missing after heavy rains triggered a landslide in a tourist region of southern Ecuador.
G7 members unite against China's economic policies, say they will come up with more steps to diversify away from China and level the playing field for other global players.
American golfer Bryson DeChambeau wins his second US Open title with a one-shot victory over Rory McIlroy, whose 10-year major drought continues after late collapse at Pinehurst.
Muslims around the world celebrate Eid al-Adha. This year's celebrations come amid a raging war in Gaza that has pushed West Asia to the brink of a regional conflict.
"52-year-old Indian national Nikhil Gupta has been extradited from the Czech Republic."
Of course, he's been extradited to the US on charges of allegedly plotting the assassination of Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Now, Gupta is being currently held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. He is suspected by US authorities of being involved in a failed plot to assassinate Pannu,
who was a US resident, Shiva. Now, in June last year, Gupta travelled from India to Prague, where he was taken into custody by Czech law enforcement. Last month, a Czech court denied his appeal despite his request to avoid extradition, which allowed the Czech justice minister to send him to the US.
Indian Railways is set to launch train services on the world's highest railway bridge built on the Chenab River in Jammu and Kashmir.
Now, the Chenab rail bridge stands at 359 meters above the river and is about 35 meters taller than the Eiffel Tower.
Well, railway officials have conducted an extensive inspection of the newly constructed railway line between Sangaldan and Riyasi. Tests that have been conducted to check the stability and safety of the bridge at high velocity winds, extreme temperatures and during earthquakes as well.
India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw announced that the first trial train successfully ran on Sunday. Experts say that the construction of the highest railway bridge was the biggest civil engineering challenge faced by any railway project in India in recent history. Well, the bridge will be able to withstand winds with speeds up to 260 km per hour. It will also have a lifespan of 120 years.
As per reports, the first train to Riyasi is likely to run on the 30th of June. Riyasi Deputy Commissioner has said that this is an engineering marvel of the modern world. He said that the day when a train reaches Riyasi will be a game-changing day for the district, adding that the engineers have created a marvel, the eighth wonder of the world.
Staying on with stories from India, after SpaceX and Tesla CEO Elon Musk's remarks on eliminating electronic voting machines, India's opposition leaders have questioned their credibility and transparency.
And of course, their questions have triggered yet another row over EVMs. Now, earlier, Musk had called for scrapping the use of EVMs altogether, citing high risks of them being hacked by humans or artificial intelligence. Now, the Congress leader, Rahul Gandhi, has said that EVMs in India are a black box and that there are serious concerns about transparency in India's electoral process. He added that democracy ends up becoming a sham when institutions lack accountability.
Now, this comes as a fresh political slugfest has erupted over EVM tampering claims in Maharashtra's Mumbai Northwest Lok Sabha constituency, where Shiv Sena contestant Ravindra Vaikar won by just 48 votes. A relative of Vaikar has been booked after reports alleged that he was using a mobile phone which was connected to the electronic voting machines on the vote counting day. Vaikar's opposition contestant has alleged foul play and claimed that his request for recounting was not accepted.
India's former Electronics and Information Technology Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar has countered Elon Musk's remarks, calling it a sweeping generalization. Chandrasekhar said that unlike the US and other places, Indian EVMs are custom designed, secure and isolated from any network or media. Now, we're looking at the record rally in Indian stocks, marking a strong recovery from election results day loss.
However, the fluctuation has also been high, with global cues pointing to weakness in world stocks on Monday.
Now, the Nifty 50 index hit a record high every single day last week and closed with gains in 4 of the 5 sessions. The blue chip Sensex index was not too far behind, with 2 records in 5 days. After a near $400 billion wipeout on the voting count day, Indian shares recovered those losses in just 3 days. That is the fastest pace of recovery in the last decade.
Well, last week, foreign buying and broader global market recovery pushed Indian stock trading volumes to a record high. Bloomberg data shows that the 10-day moving average volume of India's benchmark indices rose to $21 billion on Wednesday. And that is a jump of about 50% over the past month. To put that into context, the trading volume was in the $6 to $10 billion range since 2022 and September last year.
What investors will watch out for during this week trading sessions? Well, that's something we're delving into next. Can the Nifty index breach its all-time high of 23,490 hit on Friday? Can the Nifty end today's session in the positive and mark the 5th consecutive session of gains? Can the Sensex surpass its life high of 77,145 reached on Thursday? These are questions, of course, we are going to be tackling on World DNA in times to come.
Now, since the Ukraine invasion in 2022, many major global brands have pulled out of Russia.
And this created a gap in the market, with popular products still desired by Russian consumers. In response, Russia legalized parallel imports. Now, what are these? Allowing businesses to import these goods without the trademark owner's permission.
And this has resulted in a surge of these parallel imports exceeding $70 billion in the last 2 years. Now, despite brand exits, most goods remain available through third-party retailers in Russia.
Now, Nike, for example, although they've confirmed no authorized operations in Russia, their products are still readily available via online retailers. The imports into Russia dropped 81% in 2022, but rebounded to at least $74 million in 2023. This raises questions about how these goods reach Russia in the first place. Reuters' analysis suggests that businesses are using intermediaries with no connection to Russia to buy branded goods and then ship them through countries like Turkey.
Technically, these parallel imports might not violate sanctions, as most Western sanctions target industrial goods with military applications. Additionally, legal experts believe that pursuing legal action in Russia would be challenging for brands except for potential intellectual property concerns.
This grey market trade, alongside other tactics like shadow fleets and local currency deals, allows Russia to maintain a sense of economic resilience despite Western sanctions. All right, as always, some tech updates for you. Meta has decided not to release its generative AI product in Europe. The tech giant said that the strict privacy regulations in the EU would make the AI experience second-rate. Meta wanted to use public content from Facebook and Instagram for training their large language models, which was requested to be delayed by the Irish Data Protection Commission. Additionally, the Irish Commission has stated that they are pleased with the company's pause on training its AI using public content from its social media platforms. Meta has been under intense scrutiny in Europe for its AI training plans, and earlier this month, a European advocacy group claimed that Meta intends to use years of personal posts, private images, and online tracking data for its AI training.
A 2019 data breach faced by renowned Swiss luxury watchmaker Tag Heuer has affected about 2,900 South Korean customers. South Korea's Personal Information Protection Commission confirmed this on Sunday. Well, as for the reports, the hack had occurred between 2019 and 2020 when Tag Heuer was renovating its website. However, the company only reported the incident to the South Korean authorities after becoming aware of the attack in May last year. The South Korean Commission has fined Tag Heuer nearly $91,000 for the data breach. They have also imposed a $5,600 penalty for the delayed report.
A US-based firm founded by MIT researchers has developed a device to monitor cancer patients' health during chemotherapy without blood tests. Chemotherapy often destroys immune cells along with cancer cells, which can lead to a dangerously low white blood cell count. Until now, blood tests have been the only way to monitor this. However, this new device, which is in its testing phase at the moment, uses light to examine the skin at the top of the fingernail and employs AI to detect low white blood cell levels. This allows doctors to spot life-threatening infections in cancer patients remotely. Currently, the device makers are working on the device's accuracy and ease of use.
Well, does life exist beyond Earth? Are there other habitable planets somewhere in deep space? Well, these are questions that have plagued mankind for centuries now.
And the search, of course, continues. For almost 25 years, NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory has been furthering our efforts in this hunt for life beyond our planet. Simply put, here's how an X-ray telescope like Chandra works. Chandra studies the radiation emitted from large stars outside our solar system. Based on that, it tries to characterize whether an exoplanet, which is essentially a planet outside the solar system, orbiting that star, could host life. So how do you determine whether a body in space can host life or not? X-rays and ultraviolet light at high levels could damage an exoplanet's atmosphere. If the atmosphere is damaged, then there is less possibility of life being supported there. Chandra has now made an exciting find. They're calling it a superstar cluster. Westerland 1 is super massive, super young, super close, and is said to be creating stars at a super fast rate.
Westerland 1 is located around 13,000 light years away from Earth. Well, a light year is the distance traveled by light in 1 year, and this star cluster is about 3 million to 5 million years old. While it might seem like a lot, it is not. For example, our own solar system is estimated to be 4.6 billion years old. Westerland 1 is said to have a massive equivalent to 100,000 suns. It is among the few remaining superstar clusters in the Milky Way galaxy. With time, studying the Westerland 1 could help astronomers understand the inner workings of how and why it keeps creating stars at a rapid rate. For context, our own Milky Way galaxy, it used to produce stars at a rapid rate during its peak, but that peak period was almost 10 billion years ago. By studying Westerland 1, astronomers can now better understand